The speaking process. Stages of the speaking process. 1. Breathing stage. 2. Phonation stage. 3. Resonation stage. 4. Articulation stage. Breathing stage. Breathing, which is primarily concerned with maintaining life, is secondarily a force assisting in vocalization. It consists of two phases: inhalation and exhalation. Lungs. Our lungs serve as the reservoir of air inside our body. As you inhale, fill the lungs comfortably in preparation for speaking. Diaphragm. Our diaphragm is a large sheet of muscle separating the chest cavity from the abdomen. It forms the floor of the chest and the roof of the abdomen. It gives pressure to the breath stream. Breathing exercise. 1. Sit up straight. Exhale. 2. Inhale, and at the same time, relax your belly muscles. Feel as though the belly is filling with air. 3. After filling the belly, keep inhaling. Fill up the middle of your chest. Feel your chest and rib cage expands. 4. Hold the breath in for a moment, then begin to exhale as slowly as possible. 5. As the air is slowly let out, relax your chest and rib cage. Begin to pull your belly in to force out the remaining breath. 6. Close your eyes and concentrate on your breathing. 7. Relax your face and mind. 8. Let everything go. 9. Practice about 5 minutes. Phonation stage. Phonation takes place when voice is produced in speaking as the expiratory airstream from the lungs goes up through the trachea or windpipe to the larynx. The larynx is the principal organ for phonation. It is found at the top of the trachea. Protuberance is known as the Adam's apple. The anatomy of the human larynx consists of the following parts. Cartilages. These are the rigid structures that form the skeleton of the larynx. There are 9 cartilages in total, 3 unpaired and 3 paired. The unpaired cartilages are the thyroid, the cricoid, and the epiglottis. The paired cartilages are the arytenoid, the corniculate, and the cuneiform. Ligaments. These are the bands of connective tissue that attach the cartilages to each other and to surrounding structures. Some of the ligaments are enclosed mucous membranes to form folds, such as the vestibular folds, false vocal cords, and the vocal folds, true vocal cords. Muscles. These are the structures that move the cartilages and the vocal folds to adjust the size and shape of the laryngeal opening, glottis, and produce sound. There are 2 types of muscles, extrinsic and intrinsic. The extrinsic muscles move the entire larynx up or down in relation to other structures, such as during swallowing. The intrinsic muscles move the components of the larynx, such as changing the tension and position of the vocal folds. Cavity. This is the hollow space inside the larynx that is divided into 3 parts: the vestibule, the middle part, and the infraglottic cavity. The vestibule is the upper part that extends from the entrance of the larynx, laryngeal inlet, to the vestibular folds. The middle part is between the vestibular folds and the vocal folds, and contains the glottis. The infraglottic cavity is below the vocal folds and connects to the trachea. Human vocal cords are paired structures located in the larynx, just above the trachea, which vibrates and are brought in contact during phonation. The human vocal cords are roughly 12 to 24 mm in length and 3 to 5 mm in thick. Histologically, the human vocal cords are a laminated structure composed of 5 different layers. The vocal cords are responsible for voice and sound production. They can produce different pitches of sound by changing their position and tension. They are controlled by the joints and muscles of the larynx, as well as by the recurrent laryngeal branch of the vagus nerve. The vocal cords are sometimes called true vocal folds to distinguish them from the false vocal folds, or vestibular folds, which are located slightly higher and have a minimal role in normal phonation. However, they can produce deep sonorous tones, screams and growls in some types of singing or vocalization. The human trachea is a part of the respiratory system that connects the larynx, voice box, to the bronchi, the two main branches of the airway that lead to the lungs. The trachea is also known as the windpipe because it allows air to flow in and out of the lungs when we breathe. The trachea has several functions, such as warming and humidifying the air before it reaches the lungs, filtering out foreign particles and microorganisms that may enter the airway, regulating the diameter of the airway by contracting or relaxing the smooth muscle in its wall. The trachea is a tube-like structure that is about 11 centimeters long and 2.5 centimeters in diameter in adults. It is made up of soft tissue and rings of cartilage that provide support and prevent it from collapsing. The trachea is lined with the mucous membrane that contains cells that secrete mucus and cilia that sweep the mucus upward toward the mouth. The mucus helps trap dust, pollen, bacteria, viruses, and other substances that may irritate or infect the lungs. The trachea begins at the lower end of the larynx, just below the cricoid cartilage, and runs down the neck and chest, in front of the esophagus. It ends at the carina, where it divides into two bronchi, one for each lung. The trachea can be affected by various conditions, such as infections, inflammation, injuries, tumors, or congenital defects. Some of these conditions may cause symptoms such as coughing, wheezing, shortness of breath, hoarseness, or difficulty swallowing. Depending on the cause and severity of the condition, treatment options may include medications, surgery, or other procedures. Let us do the phonation exercise. Think about blowing out birthday candles. Begin to blow and then turn the breath into an "oo" sound on comfortable pitch. Feel the tone, begin in the breathing muscles. Resonation stage. The voice produced in phonation is weak. It becomes strong and rich only when amplified and modified by the human resonators. Resonation is the process of voice amplification and modification. The human pharynx is a part of the digestive and respiratory systems that connects the mouth and nose to the esophagus and larynx. The pharynx has several functions, such as allowing the passage of air, food, and liquids between the nose, mouth, and throat, filtering out foreign particles and microorganisms that may enter the airway, producing sounds for speech and vocalization. The pharynx is divided into three sections: the nasopharynx, the oropharynx, and the laryngopharynx. Each section has different structures and roles in the body. Here is a brief overview of each section. The nasopharynx is the uppermost part of the pharynx, located behind the nasal cavity. It connects the nose to the throat and allows air to flow from the nose to the lungs. It also contains the openings of the Eustachian tubes, which connect the middle ears to the pharynx and help regulate the pressure in the ears. The nasopharynx also contains lymphatic tissue, such as the adenoids, which help fight infections. The oropharynx is the middle part of the pharynx, located behind the oral cavity. It connects the mouth to the throat and allows food, liquids, and air to pass through. It also contains lymphatic tissue, such as the tonsils, which help fight infections. The oropharynx also contains important structures for speech and swallowing, such as the soft palate, the uvula, and the tongue. The laryngopharynx is the lowest part of the pharynx, located behind the larynx, voice box. It connects the throat to the esophagus and the trachea, windpipe. It helps direct food and liquids to the esophagus and air to the trachea. It also contains receptors that trigger the cough reflex when irritated. The pharynx can be affected due to various conditions, such as infections, inflammation, injuries, tumors, or congenital defects. Some of these conditions may cause symptoms such as sore throat, difficulty swallowing, hoarseness, coughing, or breathing problems. Depending on the cause and severity of the condition, treatment options may include medications, surgery, or other procedures. The human nose plays an important role in the speaking process, as it affects the quality and resonance of the sounds we produce. The nose is involved in two main aspects of speech production: nasalization and sound amplification. Nasalization is the process of adding nasal airflow to a sound, which changes its acoustic properties. Nasalization can occur in two ways: either by producing a nasal consonant, such as mu, no, or no, or by producing a nasal vowel, such as a, or o. Nasal consonants are produced by lowering the soft palate, or velum, which allows air to escape through the nose instead of the mouth. Nasal vowels are produced by keeping the soft palate slightly lowered while producing a vowel, which allows some air to escape through both the nose and the mouth. Nasalization is a distinctive feature of many languages, such as French, Portuguese, and Hindi. Sound amplification is the process of increasing the loudness and clarity of a sound, which depends on the shape and size of the resonating cavities in the vocal tract. The nose is connected to several hollow spaces in the skull called sinuses, which act as sound chambers that modify and amplify speech and other vocal sounds. The sinuses have different effects on different frequencies of sound, depending on their shape and volume. For example, the frontal sinuses amplify high-frequency sounds, while the maxillary sinuses amplify low-frequency sounds. Sound amplification is important for speech intelligibility and expressiveness, as it helps to convey emotions and attitudes. The human nose is not only a sensory organ that enables us to smell, but also a speech organ that influences the way we speak. The nose participates in nasalization and sound amplification, which are two processes that affect the quality and resonance of speech sounds. The human mouth is a vital organ for the speaking process, as it helps to produce and modify the sounds that form words and sentences. The mouth consists of several structures, such as the lips, teeth, tongue, palate, and cheeks, that work together to shape the airflow from the lungs and the vibrations from the larynx, voice box, into speech sounds. The mouth also plays a role in communication by expressing emotions and intentions through facial gestures and movements. The lips are the outermost part of the mouth that can be opened and closed to control the amount and direction of air that enters or leaves the mouth. The lips also help to produce different sounds by changing their shape and position. For example, the lips can be rounded or spread to produce vowels, such as ow or e, or pressed together to produce consonants, such as pov or bov. The lips also contribute to speech clarity by preventing air leakage and enhancing sound resonance. The teeth are hard structures that are embedded in the gums and support the lips. The teeth help to produce different sounds by touching or biting the tongue or the lower lip. For example, the teeth can touch the tip of the tongue to produce consonants, such as to or do, or bite the lower lip to produce consonants, such as fu or vo. The teeth also help to chew food and prepare it for swallowing. The palate is the roof of the mouth that consists of two parts: the hard palate and the soft palate. The hard palate is a bony structure that separates the mouth from the nasal cavity. The hard palate helps to produce different sounds by providing a surface for the tongue to touch or press against. For example, the hard palate can be touched via the front of the tongue to produce consonants, such as jaw or shoe. The soft palate is a muscular structure that hangs down at the back of the mouth. The soft palate helps to produce different sounds by raising or lowering to open or close the passage between the mouth and the nose. For example, the soft palate can be raised to block nasal airflow and produce oral sounds, such as p or k, or lowered to allow nasal airflow and produce nasal sounds, such as m or an. The cheeks are fleshy parts of the face that form the sides of the mouth. The cheeks help to produce different sounds by expanding or contracting to change the size and shape of the oral cavity. For example, the cheeks can be expanded to increase oral resonance and produce vowels, such as a or o, or contracted to decrease oral resonance and produce consonants, such as t or as. The cheeks also help to store food in the mouth and assist in chewing. The human mouth is a complex and versatile organ that enables us to speak in various languages and dialects. The mouth also allows us to communicate with others through nonverbal cues, such as smiling, frowning, talking, or eating. The resonators in the speaking process are the parts of the vocal tract that amplify and modify the sound produced by the vocal folds. The resonators include the throat, pharynx, the mouth cavity, and the nasal passages. The resonators produce a person's recognizable voice by adding different frequencies and harmonics to the sound waves. The resonators work by changing the shape and size of the vocal tract, which affects how the sound waves bounce and resonate within it. Different resonators have different effects on different frequencies of sound, depending on their shape and volume. For example, the pharynx amplifies low-frequency sounds, while the mouth cavity amplifies high-frequency sounds. The resonators can also be adjusted by the speaker to produce different sounds or effects. For example, the speaker can change the position of the tongue, the soft palate, and the lips to alter the shape of the mouth cavity and produce different vowels or consonants. The speaker can also open or close the nasal passages by raising or lowering the soft palate to produce nasal or oral sounds. The resonators are important for speech intelligibility and expressiveness, as they help to convey emotions and attitudes through voice quality and tone. The resonators also play a role in singing, as they help to produce different pitches and timbres. Pronounce the letter according to its size. Biggest letters mean loudest sounds. Read the black syllables softest and read the red syllables loudest. Articulation stage. Articulation occurs when the tone produced in the larynx is changed into specific sounds. This is the result of the movement of the articulators towards the point of articulation. Lips are an important part of the speaking process, as they help to produce and modify different sounds and convey visual cues to the listeners. Here are some facts about how lips work in speech. Lips can be pressed together, brought into contact with the teeth, or rounded to produce different sounds, such as P, B, F, V, or U. Lips are also important for visual cues that help listeners distinguish vowels. Sometimes, people can move their lips without making audible sounds, as in reading to oneself or subvocalizing. Lips also contribute to speech clarity by preventing air leakage and enhancing sound resonance. Lips also allow us to communicate with others through nonverbal cues, such as smiling, frowning, talking, or eating. Teeth are an important part of the speaking process, as they help to produce and modify different sounds and contribute to speech clarity. Here are some facts about how teeth work in speech. Teeth can touch or bite the tongue or the lower lip to produce different sounds, such as T, D, F, V, TH, or S. Teeth also support the lips and prevent air leakage, which enhances sound resonance and prevents distortion. Teeth are especially important for fricative sounds S, Z, F, V, TH, she, and affricate sounds, chew, ju, which require narrow gap between the tongue and the teeth or the lips. Teeth also affect the shape and size of the oral cavity, which influences the quality and resonance of vowels. If a child loses their front teeth prematurely, some of their speech sounds may be affected, especially the ones that rely on the teeth. However, most of their speech should still be clear, and their speech should return to normal once their adult teeth grow. If a child had a speech difficulty or disorder before losing their teeth, they may need professional help from a speech pathologist to correct their speech. The hard palate is the hard part of the roof of the mouth that separates the oral and nasal cavities. It is formed by the palatine process of the maxilla and the paired palatine bones. The hard palate plays a significant role in the speaking process, as it provides a surface for the tongue to touch or press against to produce different sounds. For example, the hard palate can be touched by the front of the tongue to produce consonants, such as G or Sh. These are called palatal consonants. The hard palate also affects the shape and size of the oral cavity, which influences the quality and resonance of vowels. The uvula is a small, fleshy structure that hangs from the back of the soft palate in the human mouth. It has several functions, such as producing saliva to moisten the mouth and throat, preventing food and liquid from entering the nose when swallowing, helping to produce certain sounds, especially uvular consonants, which are common in languages like French, Arabic, and Hebrew, being part of the gag reflex, which protects the airway from choking. The uvula is involved in the speaking process by creating a constriction of airflow between itself and the back of the tongue. This produces sounds called uvular trills, fricatives, or approximants. These sounds are different from velar sounds, which are produced by the back of the tongue touching the soft palate. For example, K is a velar sound, while Q is an uvular sound. The uvula also affects the quality and resonance of vowels by changing the shape and size of the oral cavity. For example, some languages have nasal vowels, which are produced by lowering the soft palate and the uvula to allow some air to escape through the nose. These vowels sound different from oral vowels, which are produced by raising the soft palate and the uvula to block nasal airflow. The uvula is only found in humans, and it is not essential for survival or speech. However, it may cause some problems if it becomes swollen, infected, or damaged. Some people may also have a bifid or split uvula, which is a minor form of cleft palate. The velum, also known as the soft palate, is a part of the mouth that plays a significant role in the speaking process. The velum is a soft tissue that separates the oral and nasal cavities. It can move up and down to control the airflow through the nose or the mouth. The velum performs two important functions in speech. It helps to produce certain sounds, especially nasal and velar sounds. Nasal sounds, such as ma, na, or nga, are produced by lowering the velum and allowing air to flow through the nose. Velar sounds, such as K, G, or J, are produced by raising the velum and touching the back of the tongue to the roof of the mouth. It affects the quality and resonance of vowels by changing the shape and size of the oral cavity. Some languages have nasal vowels, which are produced by lowering the velum slightly while producing a vowel, allowing some air to escape through both the nose and the mouth. These vowels sound different from oral vowels, which are produced by raising the velum completely and blocking nasal airflow. The velum is also important for swallowing, breathing, and producing saliva. It prevents food and liquid from entering the nose when swallowing, and it regulates the pressure in the ears by opening or closing the eustachian tubes. It also produces saliva to moisten the mouth and throat, and it triggers the gag reflex when irritated. The tongue is a vital organ for the speaking process, as it helps to produce and modify different sounds and contribute to speech clarity. The tongue is a muscular organ that is attached to the floor of the mouth and can move in different directions. The tongue helps to produce different sounds by changing its shape and position in relation to the roof of the mouth, palate, the teeth, and the lips. For example, the tongue can be raised or lowered to produce vowels, such as a or e, or moved forward or backward to produce consonants, such as s or k. The tongue is involved in four main processes of speech production: initiation, phonation, oronasal process, and articulation. Initiation is the process of creating an airstream that originates in the lungs and is pushed upwards through the trachea, the windpipe, and the oral and nasal cavities. Phonation is the process of modifying the airstream by the vocal folds, or cords, in the larynx, voice box, to produce voiced or voiceless sounds. Oronasal process is the process of directing the airstream by the velum, soft palate, into either the oral cavity or the nasal cavity. Articulation is the process of shaping the airstream by the tongue and other organs in the oral cavity to produce different sounds. The tongue can be divided into four parts: the tip, the blade, the front, and the back. Each part can touch or press against different parts of the palate or the teeth to produce different sounds. For example, the tip of the tongue can touch the alveolar ridge, the bony ridge behind the upper teeth, to produce sounds like T or D. The blade of the tongue can touch the hard palate, the bony part of the roof of the mouth, to produce sounds like G or Sh. The front of the tongue can touch the soft palate, the soft part of the roof of the mouth, to produce sounds like K or G. The back of the tongue can touch the uvula, the small fleshy like K or G. The back of the tongue can touch the uvula, the small fleshy structure that hangs from the soft palate, to produce sounds like Q or. The tongue also affects the quality and resonance of vowels by changing its height, frontness, backness, and roundness. For example, a high vowel is produced by raising the tongue close to the palate, such as I or U. A low vowel is produced by lowering the tongue away from the palate, such as A or. A front vowel is produced by moving the tongue forward in the mouth, such as E or. A back vowel is produced by moving the tongue backward in the mouth, such as O or. A rounded vowel is produced by rounding or pursing the lips, such as U or O. An unrounded vowel is produced by spreading or relaxing the lips, such as I or E. The tongue is a complex and versatile organ that enables us to speak in various languages and dialects. The tongue also allows us to communicate with others through nonverbal cues, such as licking, biting, sticking out, or rolling. Articulators are the speech organs that are used to produce speech sounds by modifying an airstream. The main articulators are the tongue, teeth, palate, and lips. Articulators can be divided into active and passive types, depending on whether they move or not. Proper articulation is important for clear and effective communication. The points of articulation in the speaking process are the positions or places where the airflow in the vocal tract is modified or obstructed by the speech organs, such as the tongue, teeth, lips, and palate. Different points of articulation produce different speech sounds, such as consonants and vowels. There are several points of articulation in the human mouth, such as bilabial. The airflow is obstructed by bringing both lips together, as in P, B, or M. Labiodental. The airflow is obstructed by bringing the lower lip into contact with the upper teeth, as in F or V. Dental. The airflow is obstructed by bringing the tip of the tongue into contact with the upper teeth, as in TH or the. Alveolar. The airflow is obstructed by bringing the tip of the tongue into contact with the alveolar ridge, the bony ridge behind the upper teeth, as in T, D, S, Z, and or A. Post-alveolar. The airflow is obstructed by bringing the front of the tongue into contact with the area just behind the alveolar ridge, as in T or D. Palatal. The airflow is obstructed by bringing the front of the tongue into contact with the hard palate, the bony part of the roof of the mouth, as in J or velar. The airflow is obstructed by bringing the back of the tongue into contact with the soft palate, the soft part of the roof of the mouth, as in K, G, or uvular. The airflow is obstructed by bringing the back of the tongue into contact with the uvula, the small fleshy structure that hangs from the soft palate. As in Q or glottal, the airflow is obstructed by closing or narrowing the space between the vocal folds or cords in the larynx voice box, as in H or